call to order the special meeting of the Snowline Unified School District Board of Trustees. At this time, I'd ask for any comments as regard to closed session.
No comments at this time regarding closed session.
Very good. The board will convene to closed session.
Yeah, so we're gonna just make a quick trip up there, guys. So sorry for that short turnaround there, Nathan. But
Ready break.
yeah, exactly. I think we'll get done before 5 o'clock. So we'll have to get back here, or before 6 o'clock, excuse me. We'll have to get back here for the.
Yeah. Right.
How you doing? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, great.
Good. Thanks again to you and Mark. So good.
Thank you very much for joining us for a special session meeting with the Snowline Joint Unified School District Board of Trustees. Returning from closed session, there's nothing to report out. That'll move us into the Pledge of Allegiance. And while it has been our norm in these virtual settings to select a school on Spotlight, this special meeting, we turn to the district office and I'm reminded of our recently adopted core values. We, the board, want everyone to know that these core values are the fundamentals behind our governance. We believe in the partnerships and trust we work on continuously with all of our Snowline family. We truly believe that all of our people matter and will ensure that a focus on equity, safety, and responsibility are the guiding principles as we move forward together. We ask that our entire family look to those principles as well as we make decisions for the best outcome for all students. If you join me in Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have Steve and Christina in with us? Excuse me, Mr. Chacon, do we have board member Behringer and clerk Colomb in with us?
We do. They're both here, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, take us to community comments. Ask if there are any comments to read that have come in virtually. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Stapp, would you mind reading the policy regarding public comments?
Yes, thank you. Regarding public comments, the board president or chairperson will invite citizens to speak on any items on the agenda. In the interest of fairness, efficiency, citizens will be asked to give their name and indicate the item they wish to address. Citizens will also be invited to make suggestions and identify concerns about matters affecting the schools which may not be on the agenda or suggest topics for future agendas. Any individual who has requested to speak to any item on the agenda may be granted up to 3 minutes to make a statement, with the total time devoted to statements not exceeding 15 minutes. Any individual who has requested to speak to an item not on the agenda may be granted up to 3 minutes to make statements to the board, with the total time devoted to the topic of the statement not to exceed 15 minutes. Community comments may also be submitted online to be read before the board at the appropriate place on the agenda, with a time limit for reading of 3 minutes. 1 hour prior to the start of open session, a community comment may be submitted through the online process. The board president may, with board consent, increase or decrease the time allowed for public statements, depending on the topic and the number of speakers for or against a particular issue. The board president may rule on the appropriateness of a topic. If the topic would be more suitably addressed at a later time, the president may indicate the time and place when it should be presented. The board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions. In addition, the board may not prohibit public criticism of district employees.
Thank you very much. I have not received any comment cards for in-person comments. And I do see that we have a number of comments that have come in online. I guess at this point, there are 23 comments. Without going through those quickly, I would believe most of them would be dedicated to our special meeting topic of tonight. And so look to the rest of my board, the comments are limited to 3 minutes or 15 minutes per topic. Considering the gravity of the nature of the topic that we're discussing, I feel it appropriate that we take the time to read all comments, though many are fairly short. if I can get consensus from the board, that we listen to all comments as they've been presented so far. Yes. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So with that, Ms. Stepp, would you begin the public comments?
Yes, thank you, President Hernandez. Dear board members, I would like to express my concerns about the possible increase in learning days. While it would be lovely to have the children on campus more days, I do not feel that now is the safe time to do that. I currently have 14 kids in one of my groups, and we would be able to fit 2 more students in there and still keep 3 feet apart. If I were to have both my A group and B group together, that would be 24 students in my classroom at one time. I would not be able to keep the children more than a few inches apart from each other, and I would not be able to give them the attention that I currently am able to provide for them in the smaller groups. I have had several students who have had family members lose a loved one to COVID this school year. The families have sent their children to campus trusting that we are following CDC guidelines of keeping them apart. I would like the families to know that their children are being kept as safe as possible. Currently, we have a great system in place at Baldy Mesa that keeps kids apart at dismissal. If we were to increase the number of students on campus, we would not be able to keep them 3 feet apart. In addition, our lunch staff has been working very hard to provide lunches to our students. It would be a burden for them to have to increase this to twice the number of students in that short window of lunchtime. Thank you for considering these points. Sincerely, Kathleen Raymer, teacher at Baldy Mesa Elementary School.
Next comment. Dear board members and administrators, I think it is safe to say we all agree that it is best to have in-person learning as much as possible, but we must figure out a way to safely overcome any obstacles to do that. This includes the physical and emotional well-being. Students have already been through a great deal of upheaval. In parentheses, some students have changed sites, schedules, and teachers 3 times already this year. In order to meet CDC guidelines, some students would have to change classes or teachers yet again for just 4 weeks. We have heard of recent COVID cases in our district and even with the hybrid model. Below are some questions that I have been given that you may be able to help address. Elementary hybrid class numbers of students rotate every hour. Will this need to change if the schedule changes? Substitutes. Is the district prepared to utilize more substitutes if more classes need to be created to accommodate CDC guidelines? Busing. Have the spacing requirements been changed to accommodate the larger number of students who will be riding the buses? Nutrition services. Will they be able to meet the needs of the large population of daily students and still serve the remote students? If students change classes again, will they need, will they need to redo their learning platforms and assignments and testing for report cards in their new classes? At larger sites, even with the current AABB, it can take up to 40 minutes to clear the pickup lines. How will we do this if students are doubled? Please consider fully the pros and cons as to what is truly the most beneficial to students, families, and staff of our Snowline community. Thank you for your service, time, consideration in reading this. Respectfully, Tracy Daylow.
Next comment, to whom it may concern. About 1 week ago, this very body held a meeting to discuss the return to school. This time, it was about returning to school 4 days a week. The meeting was an hour and a half long, and in this time span, the board discussed this issue, but it seemingly wasn't on the basis of science, substance, or logic. During the meeting, the board talked about the return to school, but not in a manner that reflected public health or safety. In that meeting, the board spent their time talking about how their own kids were affected, and not one board member brought up the safety of all students, teachers, and staff members. At multiple points, board members seemed more focused on restating their own positions than listening to Dr. Holman's message. This return to school will leave many kids and their families at a crossroads. It will force them to have to choose between their safety and their valued in-person education time that they have been enjoying. The board cannot bear the responsibility of forcing a child and their parents to make that decision, especially if it means having to change students' teachers. The actions of the board were very concerning to hear and watch. The disregard for educators and staff members was very displeasing. The pandemic disproportionately affects people of color and those in lower socioeconomic demographics within our own community. This will be a moral stain on the Board of Trustees if this moves forward too quickly without addressing the current state of the pandemic. I would like to say that I returned to school because I felt like the plan was well thought out and based on safety and public health, not personal opinion. The premature use of staff survey results that weren't complete, anecdotal evidence from, in quotes, people they see in the community, end quote, and the few public comments offered, even though the public didn't know this was going to be voted on by the board on that date, were the basis for their vote to issue the directive to move forward combining groups A and B in the classroom without once asking if it was safe for the students and staff. If this plan to return 4 days a week moves forward without regard to safety, I will rethink that decision and urge my peers at Serrano High School to do the same. We must be told how many students can safely social distance in each classroom, how the proctors will manage to double the students' social distancing at lunch, and whether more students will plan to return to campus than originally, since perhaps their reasons for staying online may be nullified with a return 4 days per week, combining groups with their friends. On a final note, the students will not be bullied or forced to make a decision based on their health. So we will be inclined to ensure that safety remains our #1 priority. I yield back my time. Leo Maldonado.
Next comment. I wanted to know if there's a possibility or if the board has considered doing full days, such as 2 full days instead of 4 half days. The half days are hard for the parents that work and almost make it impossible for their kids to get in-person learning. I also wanted to know when the new schedule would be implemented. Would the option to stay with the current hybrid schedule be available or only new model or strictly remote? Also, if it's not something they are planning to implement until May, is it worth the headache for the district personnel, teachers, parents, and transitioning for kids to change it for the last 6 to 7 weeks? I'm all for the kids getting more in-person learning. I just think it should be reasonable. And I know you guys will do your best, but with CDC guidelines, there's no way to please everyone. Thank you, Sarah Leach.
Good afternoon. At a recent board meeting, it was decided to pursue the possibility of going to a 4-day week and combine both the A and B cohort groups. Although I am aware that you want to get students back into school, I must ask if this would truly benefit our students, families, and staff at this time of the year. Our middle and high school have only just started back, and you would now have them change up their schedules, their family schedules as well, as cause additional stress to the sites by possibly doubling the amount of students on their campuses. At the elementary sites, this would also cause additional issues with just the minimum compliance of desks being 3 feet apart in the classrooms. As it is now, in many rooms with only 12 students in the room, students are finding it difficult to see the whiteboard or what is being presented because they cannot be close enough to the front of the room. Teachers are still expected to be a few feet away from their students, and students can't be close to each other per the county guidelines. If you bring the other cohort of perhaps 12 or more students, you have drastically reduced the amount of movement in the classroom. Is this truly what is best for students? Will they indeed get a quality education for the last few weeks of school? What if they have to change classes or teachers or their cohort friends? The presence of more students on each campus, specifically our larger schools, would also affect the amount of time that students actually have on campus in a learning situation. Did you know that because of having to bus our middle and high school students, that our elementary bus riders must leave a half hour before school ends? This time will increase if you need to bus more students. With compliance to the county guidelines, who will you decide gets to ride the bus? Because not everyone will get to with an increase of students. Did you know that just having students get their daily package lunches, that they are losing up to an additional 15 minutes each day, and add the 15-minute break, which they need each day? As it is, the individual cohorts are not getting a 3.5-hour school day. If you add more students with a 4-day school week, it seems evident that more time will be taken from them. Another thought is about safety. If all of the cohorts attend 4 days a week, there is a stronger possibility of COVID transmission. Unfortunately, COVID has not gone away, and we still continue to have cases in our local population. How are you providing safety to our families and staff when you are intentionally adding more students to each class? I am hoping that the administration and our school board will reevaluate their thoughts on bringing all cohorts back together at this time of the school year. May, with only 4 weeks left of school. Please do not think that some of the things that I have mentioned are little obstacles that are unimportant. I have only mentioned a few. There are many more. The families in our district deserve some calm and not the additional stress that the district will put on them if you put the cohorts together for a 4-day week. Let them as well as our entire staff, custodial, food, secretarial, bus, and teaching, finish up this year strong without any more change-ups. Look at other schools and learn from their successes as well as their mistakes. Plan early for next year, but don't create hardship and chaos at the end of this school year. Ask yourselves, is what you are rushing to do truly what is best for our students at this time of year? Patty Abdallah.
Hello, it has been brought to my attention that the board is deciding to have our children go back to school for 3.5 hours a day, with remaining hours virtual, 4 days a week, and 1 full day virtual. My husband and I, and even our son, are completely opposed to that idea. Since completely full-time is not on the table right now, we would like to propose having them go back full-time 2 days a week, and then virtual the remaining 3. Transportation and the back and forth doesn't work for almost any working parent. It would cut the costs in gas and having to pay childcare every single day. By the time we get home, the last thing the kids want to do is more school, so it interrupts their learning and they're no longer focused. They absorb so much more with in-person learning, so much more would be achieved during full-time days. It would also help break their days up so they are not constantly sitting in front of a computer hours a day every single day. Children need social interaction, so full-time days would also allow for more playtime with the other children. The 3-hour-a-day idea doesn't make any sense. Plus, that doesn't prepare them for when we do eventually go back completely full-time, hopefully soon. Thank you for your time, Mikkel Lewis.
Sarah Bristol. As a teacher who teaches both in-person and remote students at the elementary level, I would like to offer my experiences as evidence that a 4-day week schedule change would be most beneficial to my students. First, I would like to add that although I have personally experienced some anguish over the last year because of COVID, I have tried to keep a positive outlook. This isn't easy to do, and negativity wins at times. But for my family, my mental health, and the students I serve, I have tried to stay on track. I know not everyone has had the opportunity to follow this mindset, and my hopes are that summer is a great time for my fellow teachers to be reminded and reconnect with the true nature of our purpose as teachers. With that being said, I would love to see my students in person as many days consecutive as possible. My class is distributed into thirds. If I had the chance to have both A and B students together, 18 of them, the discussions will be richer, Lessons could be continued in more depth, and I could build a better connection with those who do nothing between Tuesday and the following Monday. With the half-day schedule, I would also get the time to have some synchronous lessons with just the remote-only students, catering more to their specific needs without repeating concepts and keeping lessons fluid. In reality, this is a much better use of all of our time and energy. Thanks for the considerations.
Bill Conrad, 5th grade, Baldy Mesa. What board, let's see, return to 4 days of in-person school is a topic. Thank you for your leadership and desire to move forward with this plan. I know this process has been challenging for all of you and for all of us as teachers in the district, but I truly think that 4 days is better than 2. And I'm excited to get the band back together so to speak. I look forward to seeing what happens tonight and over the next few days and weeks in regards to this decision.
Exhausted teacher. We all want students in school, and I hope that all have taken into consideration some of the challenges of having both in-person and remote students entails. The remote students, whether 1 or 10, take a great deal of time each day to prepare for. Many teachers agreed to take on these students because they cared and didn't want one more disruption in their students' lives. But the toll it has taken on all of us teachers just seems to be dismissed. Our district has spoken a lot about self-care, but no one seems to notice that it is next to impossible if you're doing your job. We all know too that self-care for our district office is also impossible for them. I do not believe having students come 4 days a week will increase the number of in-person students, but may in fact decrease the number of families able to do this 4 days a week.
This comment is from an Anthony D. Downing, and it's just a public comment. I've yet to receive a response to the email I sent Mr. Holman, Superintendent, Christina Behringer, Board Member, and Marcus Hernandez, President, from February 21st, 2021, regarding a teacher within this district with allegations of child abuse against her. So I ask, why have I not heard back from the district regarding my concerns? Are you simply going to keep looking the other way?
Decisions that have needed to be made were and are difficult and ever changing. I ask that we pause a second and just think about how making even more changes will affect everyone. In a year with so much uncertainty and change, we are now looking at even more. Routines have been established on all campuses and would have to be rearranged if this new change is implemented. This especially impacts the larger sites. Can these changes be safely implemented when class sizes are doubled? I've heard that the desks might be made to fit many rooms with the new regulations, with taking out extra furniture, students facing each other instead of facing forward, and extending the desks from wall to wall. Can they all still actually see the whiteboard, smartboard, or presentation from these positions? Will they still be able to maintain their distance in the classrooms while in hallways, lunch lines, and other shared areas? Will yet another change bring on more anxiety? Will some students have to switch teachers yet again this year? Will we be prepared for such a fast turnaround again without chaos? These are all concerns for the safety and well-being of all students and staff. Thank you for your consideration, Snowline teacher.
This public comment is from Brittany Stark. Do we, as a parent, have any say on proceeding forward with a 4-day in-person learning, which I am highly in favor of? Additionally, will these be full days? I have heard Hesperia School District returns to full 5 days a week starting April 26. Why are we not taking this opportunity to move forward and give our children the educational opportunities they deserve?
This comment is from Stacy M. As a parent with 2 students, one of which has asthma, who attends a school in the Snowline School District, I would like to know how social distancing is even a possibility if the classroom is full of 25 plus students. I find it concerning that a push to open the school 4 days a week will equal reduced COVID safe practices.
Topic is 4 days in person. Will the schools be doing the same times or will that change? You're muted, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Villa. The comment is, will this mean that we are a step closer for an in-person graduation?
This comment is from Anonymous. I am writing to you from the view of one of the few teachers to stay on remote learning during this time of hybrid learning. I know you are not in the classroom nor online with students, so I would like to offer the reality of remote learning during this time. For all of my students, I am their second, if not third or the fourth teacher they have had this school year. All of my students started with one teacher, then either moved to the Snowline Academy or had a long-term sub or went hybrid or chose to stay remote and have now found themselves with me as their teacher. They have had not just one change in their academic year, but several. Students have a very hard time with change at this age, and this year has been nothing but constant change for them, with only the reassurance of more change in their future. They are tired of change. They are tired of school. They are tired of participating, and I don't blame them at this point. The majority of my remote class at this moment of time consists of 3 students who do not attend nor do any work, 4+ students who are camera off and never speak or use the chat to communicate, despite my rules of the camera on and participating. 3 students who are camera off but go off mute or use the chat to participate occasionally, and the remaining 15 or so are in and out of the meet, camera off and on, vacuuming during meets or engaged in participating. I hope you can understand the frustration of this. I used to have a class of 24 students with their cameras on, participating and actively learning. I provide these students with the best learning experience possible online, but students and their parents do not care anymore. They are over the changes and over school and just want to be done. And here we want to throw another change at them. I fear one more change and we will completely lose any and all engagement for the remainder of the year. The last change that occurred when we went to hybrid, my first 10 straight days had roster changes, students both moving in and out of my class. This is hard, not only for me as the teacher trying to teach the learning websites I use, as not all teachers use the same programs, but for students and parents as well. It is difficult and time-consuming to get the students online or make communication with the parents. Getting students in and out of programs and communicating with families outside of the teachers' work hours to accommodate parents' work schedules. We are all exhausted. The thought of another change exhausts me. I've never been under so much mental stress in my life, and I know all of my coworkers feel the same. I can only imagine how students and parents must feel. When I speak to parents, they are upset. They are not upset with me, but they are upset with our district for allowing and encouraging so many changes in one school year. I ask you to please leave everyone alone for the remaining 7 weeks of the school year and let us get the learning in that we can. Let the students build a bond with the teacher for the second or third time and keep that bond. Thank you for your time.
topic of this comment is 4 days in-person learning. I am a hybrid teacher for our district. I have my A group students and my B group students. When we arranged this division for A or B, I set up my classes by levels so I would be able to teach where they are and continue their education onward. Combining my groups will diminish my ability to reach all of my students. They will not receive the same ability level of education they have had so far in hybrid. This is a disservice to our students. They are only with us for 3.5 hours a day, and in that time they have a recess. They have to pick up a lunch, and our bus riders leave half an hour before our pickup students. That is a large chunk out of our day. To double our population will decrease even further the education they are receiving right now in hybrid. Please leave our schedule as it is. Everyone has had enough change for one school year. That leads me to the remote portion of our day. Students are not joining meets anymore. Attendance has fallen off dramatically. Also, they have stopped participating in asynchronous learning. Another change could further negatively impact the learning of our children. Enough is enough. No more changes this school year, please.
This comment is from a Snowline Elementary parent. Given the media attention to the Arizona governor's veto to changes in sex education, what is Snowline's policy on sex education? What grade does it begin at? What is the curriculum, and where as a parent can I review it to see what coincides with my family's beliefs so I know what I need to discuss with my child about our lifestyle versus what the district may be teaching?
This comment is anonymous. As a teacher in the district, I believe going to a 4-day in-person schedule will be more detrimental than beneficial to all stakeholders in the district. A number of students have had 2 to 5 teachers already this year and have just gotten settled into a new environment and schedule. Many parents and teachers have done the same. Changing the schedule this late in the school year will cause unnecessary stress for students, teachers, and families with the acclimation of a new environment, schedule, and teaching style. I hope that Snowline continues to look at known consequences and detriments to changing schedules with about 30 days left of school and realize that they outweigh the perceived benefits to this change. As a teacher, I feel it is best for everyone involved to finish the school year in our current modality of learning and schedule.
This comment is anonymous. The topic is return to school. As a teacher at the middle school level that has been back in the classroom teaching hybrid for several weeks, my recommendation is that we return to 4 days a week. With the best interest of the kids in mind and from an educational standpoint, teachers do best when they are in a classroom with live instruction. Whether it is 40 minutes or 2 hours, 8 weeks or 5 days, this is what is best for kids. I have taught remotely since last March. The shift I have seen the last few weeks is speechless. There is a reason students go to school. There is a reason teachers teach. It is about time that we all remember this and think about what is really important: the kids, the students, education, the future.
That's the end of the comments, President Hernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Stapp. I don't know if I saw many emails, but if there's any that had direct questions as to some of the other policies going on right now, we'll reach back out to you, or Dr. Holman, if you would. Research that, see if there's any contact to get back in touch with those folks. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
I sure will.
All right, very good. Well, as we're here for essentially one item on the agenda, I do look for a motion to adopt the agenda as it is presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Member Bristol. A second. Thank you, Member Flores. Since we're partially,
Roll call.
yeah, we'll take a roll call vote, and we'll start in here with Member Flores.
Aye.
Member Bristol,
Aye.
Member Berenger,
Aye.
and Clerk Loom.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We've adopted the agenda, which includes item H1. Dr. Holman.
Thanks so very much, President Hernandez. And I'm going to start by thanking not just you, but all 5 of the board members here. On very short notice, you came together for this special meeting. You're all here, whether you be in person or online. I greatly appreciate that. That notice was very short. I want to make sure everyone knows who's part of this meeting here. A special board meeting can be called with 24 hours notice. And it was called here to follow up on the direction that you gave us. That direction from last meeting, last week, was to pursue the in-person learning increase from 2 to 4 days in the current half-day model, pending the completion of the staff survey and looking at whether or not there were significant changes based upon the 70% of the responses that we shared that evening, and with the other 30 additional responses, 30% or just a little bit more of those responses. And so tonight I'm going to go through the survey just to make certain that you all know all the responses that were given, to all the 8 questions, I should say. But once again, I just greatly appreciate you board members coming together for the reason that I just described. And so to that end, Alan Miller is going to help us out as he always does, and that is with the presentation that we have for you. So just to give you an overview, we'll provide you with the information, with the focus, of course, on the survey, but I'll also tie into it some of the information we give you on a regular basis. For instance, the COVID-19 data. I feel like that's always appropriate to provide to all of you. That gets updated from the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health each Monday. So we'll go through that presentation with all the information that we feel like you need to hear. And then after having gone through that, then we'll turn it back over to all of you so that then you can provide for us what you feel like is fit for the district. And that would be specifically questions you may have, as well as ultimately direction so that we can move forward. We're here to answer your questions, of course, and share with you any other information that you might need beyond that presentation that Alan Miller, just put up here right now. So thanks so very much, Alan. If you can just go to the second slide here are the outcomes, and you'll see some familiar slides here, but with different information in here. And I'll say this presentation, as always, once we get to the end of the evening, we will post this on our website for anyone who maybe missed this meeting here. They can access the presentation as well as of course our YouTube channel, which will have the recording for this board meeting. So you can see the 2 outcomes. I want to make sure that you understand the data behind the staff survey that was completed just a couple days ago, and that would be Monday morning. And then also I want to get to some future actions here, that commitment from all of you for you to tell us where you want to head as we think about in-person learning. So Alan, as we go to the next page here, that agenda is smaller than it normally is here when we present in this form, right? We're going to just reiterate our commitment, give you the data as I mentioned, and then focus on those staff survey results. I've got them disaggregated for all of you, so hopefully it'll be of assistance based upon what you've already seen, of course, and will see, and then certainly answer any questions and provide you with any recommendations as all of you see is appropriate. So thank you, Alan, for giving that overview. So if we go through these slides, you'll see them very familiar. Again, just that reminder, our commitment is to be connected to the federal, state, and local guidelines that are put forth. We really, I think I can proudly say we haven't wavered from that throughout this process. We appreciate your support in that regard. And that next slide is a slide that we use to articulate that as quickly, safely, and tightly aligned to public health guidelines as possible. And we're going to do so together. And again, I think by virtue of all of you coming together here and getting feedback on a survey, I think that's representative of that. Again, here, another familiar slide, we have 2 options, and we'll still continue to talk about those 2 options, that at-home remote school and/or Snowline Academy designs, and then in person when we can do so. And we are allowed by the guidelines to increase, and we'll talk further about those allowances. So Alan, as we go to the next slide here, just give you the latest. You saw last week's, here's this week's update on the data here. These are our communities within the Snowline Joint Unified School District, 200 square miles plus boundaries here. They get updated weekly. You can see and will see the daily case rate, that's 6, that large number there, and then the percentage transmission rate right next to that 1.5 for Oak Hills. And as Alan, as you toggle through the next one, they're just alphabetical. We will see Phelan Elementary School at 8.7 and 4% transmission rate. And then I think Pinion Hills is next. You'll see that number right there at 3.6 and an 8.8% transmission rate for this week. And then as we go next to Victorville, I believe, there you go. You can see 4.6, which is out on our eastern end of the district, and a 1.9% transmission rate. And then finally, Wrightwood, alphabetically, that 5.5 daily case rate with a 2.7 positivity rate, or that transmission rate. Again, those numbers continue to be in the lower area that we were experiencing not but 2-3 months ago, right? So that's not probably a surprise to you. But let's just drill down a little bit on the next slide here and talk about San Bernardino County, because that determines the tier. Just give you that reminder. We are in the orange tier right now. You can see the data as they trend that stayed on that left-hand side in the case rate. Really, to be quite honest, if you're looking at the website for San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, that trend line is really flattened out, and it's really stayed within that 4 range. You can see from the span of about 5 weeks, 3.98 to 4.05 in San Bernardino County. It allows for us to maintain ourselves in the orange tier. You can see a little bit of yellow highlighted in there. That is because the positivity rates are also in the Healthy Places Index has dipped below 2 on a couple occasions. Right now, just over 2 for all of San Bernardino County, which of course we are in. But you might ask yourselves again that we're in the orange tier. That orange tier allows for us to be talking about what we're talking about, but it remains as such in the red tier too. That's a reminder. So we're not talking about this just because of the orange tier. This conversation comes up because of changes in guidelines from CDC through the California Department of Public Health with physical distancing. So we'll get into that a little bit more. But Alan, as you go to the next slide here, let's talk about Snowline real quickly. And again, where are those positivity rates? We don't get the positivity rates reported by a school district. That's why they're not in there. We get the total case counts and the number of youths who are acquiring or infected by COVID-19 or identified as being positive. You can see ourselves going from purple all the way down to staying in orange for a bit there. You can see our rate over the last 3 weeks going from about just a little bit below 5 to at the higher parts of 3 in that daily case rate. And you can see those numbers associated with the counts that I mentioned in Snowline. So those are the most recent ones. I always feel like I have to talk about this. Ryan, why April 10th? Why not April 21st? Well, these always come out on Mondays, and they're 9 days in arrears. I just want to give that reminder to everyone. Again, that's the most recent data coming from the California Department of Public Health. So thanks, Alan, for getting us to this point. So let's now drill down into the survey, because again, as that reminder, when we talked on last Tuesday night, just a little bit over a week ago, right? We had just opened up that electronic survey, as it says there. And so we were together, right, on the 13th, and that's when it opened up, and it extended up through Monday of this week until at 7 a.m. Okay, there are 8 prompts there. You'll see I list them as questions, but in some cases they're statements we're asking people to respond to. And just under 500 of our staff members responded, 497. That amounts to be a little bit more exact, just over 50%, that 51.3% of our staff members responded. So that's just the overview of the survey there. We thank you again for coming together to look at now these survey questions. So let's drill down a little bit on that next slide there, Alan. Here's the first one, question number 1, and we just simply ask, and I'm going to go through all 8 of them. The first 2 are what we might call a little bit more demographic or informational questions. The one is your employment, that question right above there, and you'll see this in hopefully a consistent form. And that is the question that's italicized there, and then a table to identify the data. So what best describes your employment with the Snowline Joint Unified School District? You can see the total number and then the percentage. That'll be a common theme here too, how I present this. So if you're wondering, of the 497, a little over 55% were our certificated staff members. That would include teachers, counselors, et cetera. And then classified staff members, 188 responded, which is just about 38%. And then finally, almost 7% of our administrators and management staff members to make up the 100%, all 497 of the responses. Staff members could only respond one time, if you're wondering about that. And so when we go to question 2, the places of work, we certainly ask people to tell us where they're from. And what I've grouped this as, because we often hear in the public comments, right, what levels, I think hopefully this is the most helpful to all of you here this evening, is by elementary, middle, high school, non-traditional schools. We oftentimes say NTS, and then departments. Give you just a little bit more details. Elementary schools, I've got 6 schools put together. Those 6 schools would, of course, be Baldy Mesa Elementary School, Phenol Elementary School, Pinion Hills Elementary School, Vista Verde Elementary School, Wrightwood Elementary School makes 5. The 6th is the Heritage School. Now, the Heritage School is, of course, it's got all the way up through 8th grade. You might say, well, why didn't we disaggregate those? We didn't have the ability to do that in this instance by our choice, right? We do try to make certain that we can maintain anonymity. And we know that as we drill down more and more, that starts to put anonymity at a question, right? So I chose to put all of the heritage responses in with the elementary schools. So you know that. There's a note at the bottom there. Middle schools would be Pinion Mesa and Quail Valley. The high school, you see that's not plural, that's Serrano High School. It doesn't have Chaparral in there because Chaparral is put together in NTS, the non-traditional schools. You'll see this throughout, right? It includes Chaparral High School, Eagle Summit Community Day School, the Snowline Academy, of course, which does have some elementary, but again, that differentiation, just trying to put them all in the one area here. And then finally, we do have the Snowline Adult School there too. And then the departments, we did, you might say, well, if you've got a classified employee, that employee works at Wrightwood Elementary School, let's just say, that person then could very much say, I'm attached to Wrightwood Elementary School. But we did delineate some other departments. And so transportation, for instance, nutrition services, they're put together all in that department category. And you can see on that far right-hand side, how the makeup is. Almost 50% of the responses came from elementary school, almost 20% middle school, just a little over 17% at that high school level, 5% on the non-traditional schools level, and then again at 9% for the departments in terms of those 497 responses. So now from 3 to 8, we're going to now drill down into the case at hand here, right? Going from these questions that are built around going from 2 days in person to 4 days. The first question there, as you see, it's overall talking about what's best for students. And most specifically, I'll read it just to make sure everyone can see what and hear what we're talking about. The question was specifically written as, do you believe that it is best for our students to increase our in-person learning option from 2 half days, which we're currently engaged in, we heard in some of the public comments, to 4 half days per week? So it's not changing the schedule in this question. What it's doing, the daily schedule, what it's doing is changing specifically just and isolating the number of days. So what you can see in this kind of 2-part way to give you the information, hopefully that's helpful beyond what you've seen already, is certificated classified management, and that total. You can see the total numbers of yeses and nos there. But let me just go to the percentages to maybe make it easy right now, or easier. Certificated responded that just under 54% said yes, and then you can see that would mean about 46% no. On the classified side, just almost 63% and 37% no on the classified side. Yes on the management side, over 82%, which would mean almost 18% on the no side. The total though, so I'll focus a little bit of time here, just a little under a 60-40, right? 59.2% saying yes, it's best for students as an entire staff, right? All put together, not disaggregated as I read it before. And then just a little over 40% saying no, about 41% saying no to that. That line below there, I tried to provide for all of you for extra assistance, because you might be saying, what did elementary school say? What did middle school say, right? High school, like introduce that. So you can see those are all listed real quickly. Elementary school, it was about a 54-46 break. Middle school, 62 on the yes, 38 on the no. High school, basically a 60-40 on that yes, no. NTS, a 64-36 yes on the 64, no on the 36. And then lastly, departments, about a 78-22%. Know that you're going to see that on a couple other questions. Again, additional information broken up by the level that I hope is helpful for all of you. As we go to question 4 here, right, out of 8, this one's about the greatest challenges. Now, this one was formatted in a different way. So after I just described what the other slides will look like, this is another different one. I think hopefully it's a way that helps you get a real handle on the collective, the 497 individuals who were asked with about 9 different choices, which ones are the greatest concerns. And what we've listed here are the top 3 responses from everybody and the number of times they were mentioned in their top 3. And then from number 1 to 5 there, I guess it probably would have been better served for me to number those. My apologies, I just have bullets. But you can see physical distancing requirements with being mentioned 286 times in the top 3 of that ranking that they were asked to, being the greatest concern of the 497 staff members. And then just closely behind that's that short time to adapt to another change. That number says 277. And then with a little bit of a drop here of about 90, we get to the changing of classes, which we've heard mentioned, and getting new teachers. And just below that, the needs of the remote school individuals. And then finally, the COVID-19 transmission rates that increased exposure. Yeah, and then we just want to make sure that we're not losing anyone here with our remote situation. If you go over, Shannon, if you go to the home button over there, see on the far right side. Does that do it, John? Do you see that little? Or no, sorry, 2 down from that. 2 down from that. Sorry, that one. Hey, well done.
There we are.
Great teamwork there.
Sorry, Shannon.
Yeah, sorry, Shannon, and you too, John. I really appreciate the help there. Thank you for bearing with us there. We lost our connection there. So just to go backward again, physical distancing, number 1 mentioned as the biggest concern. That changed students, I think is where I stopped. And then the last one, those COVID-19 transmission rate concerns. Again, there was a list of 9 of them. These were the 5 most significantly mentioned, and you can see by order from 1 to 5, those were the greatest challenges. That question specifically, forgive me, I don't think I read it. Make sure everyone can see that. It says, what are the greatest challenges that must be considered with the implementation of in-person learning for 4 days per week? And that's how they're listed. So thank you, Alan. We'll go to number 5. This format should look familiar. Here's the next question, and that is, do the benefits that come to students with 4 days of in-person learning per week outweigh the cost of the challenges, right? So this cost benefit or benefit outweighing the cost question here. Again, here's the same format, certificated classified management, and it's a yes, no again. And on the certificated side, the yeses were just over 47% on the yes, meaning that certificated saying 47% of them saying the benefits outweigh the cost. And that would mean 53% are saying no. When we say classified, that's about a 58.5% to a 41.5% yes-no ratio. Management saying almost 65% to about 35%. And then the overall response from all 497 put together is about a 53 to 47, technically 52.7% and 47.3. Now, again, at the bottom, there's that breakdown if you're wondering about middle school employees, elementary school employees, elementary school, middle school, left or right, also high school, non-traditional, and departments. I'll read those just real quickly. At the elementary scale, it's almost a 50-50, 49.8% and 50.2%. Middle school says 52.6% yes and 47.4% no. High school says 55% on the yes and 45% on the no. And non-traditional schools really close there, 56% and 44%. And the department saying 62%, roughly speaking, and 38%. So there's the breakdown for the school-based levels. And then on question 6, now this question was the one I think we really focused on when we shared the preliminary data Tuesday night, a week ago at our last meeting. and want to make sure you see how that's changed since then. And specifically, just flat out about talking about the change. And the question was worded as, should we change to 4 days of in-person learning per week using the current half-day schedule for the duration of the school year? So again, certificated classified management across the board. That certificated, again, is almost a 50-50. It's 50.5% to 49%, 0.5%, excuse me. Yes, 50.5, no, 49.5. Classified says 64.4% yes, 35.6% no. Management, it's about a 2/3, 1/3, right? 67.6% and 32.4% on the no. And then total, all staff members together on this question, should a change happen, 56.9% saying yes and 43.1% saying no. Now at the bottom, if you're wondering about grade levels, elementary school says 53.5 yes, 46.5 no. Middle school says a 60-40 split there on the yes, no. High school says 56.3% yes, 43.7% no. Non-traditional schools, another 60-40 split. And then departments say 68.9% yes, 31.1% no. Two more questions to go over here. Question 7 is a bit of a unique one, but we wanted to find out amongst our employees who might have children who are going to our schools. We wanted to be able to get their opinions in that regard there. And so the sheer numbers there, of the 497 people who responded, 186 of the employees indicated that they have children attending our schools right now. And that's about, when you look at the numbers there, a little over 37% of our staff members who responded to the survey say they've got children in our schools. And then when we go back and think about the answers to the previous question, that notion of should we make the change, the staff members with children said yes almost 63% of the time, and conversely 37% no, right? And then when you look at the staff members without children, the answers to question 6, should we make a change? It's about 10% difference there, right? 53.1% saying yes, and then roughly 47% saying no there. Okay, so wanted to give you the data on 7 there, a little bit of a unique question, but hopefully a helpful one. And then lastly, question 8, I'll just say real quickly, we certainly wouldn't have time to read all 255 comments. I will share with you of the 255 people who responded, 51.3%. That number's familiar, right? Because that's how many of we had 51.3% when you round to that 10th column of our staff respond to the survey. Well, interestingly enough, of the 255 comments, just a little bit over half the people left comments. So there are all kinds of comments. I so appreciate that. I want to just thank everyone who completed the survey. We really are grateful for that, but especially the comments. There are power in those comments. And so I know all of you, we forwarded those to you. I just wanted to make sure we brought attention to the idea of the numbers of comments, where they came from, and so forth. So with that tour of the survey, I'll get to myself being quiet and then listening to all of you and being a resource for all of you. But on that next slide, Alan, just real quickly, we're just asking, determining what's best for our system. Most importantly, of course, our students, but our system includes students, staff, our families here, right? And I really just tried to phrase it in a question here, and that is, how are the remaining days that we have? We've got 35 days left as of today, right now, meaning I say as of today, but beginning tomorrow, we have 35 days. How are they most effectively used for our students? And so really, the question at hand, do we stay with the current model or move to 4 days? So hopefully this presentation was helpful. Hopefully it provided an additional look at the data after what you've already seen as as board members. And Alan, as you go to the next one, it's just a symbolic piece of saying, what questions do you have? I wouldn't expect anything other than more questions that please know that I'm prepared to answer. We certainly do have also the senior cabinet who will add in any sort of responses that will be of assistance so that all of you feel like you can do what we would love to hear from yourselves, and that would be direction as we move to the last 35 days here. So President Hernandez, I'll turn that back over to you, and again, just be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that presentation and all the data that you guys have collected. I believe that we're here today because of that change in data. Last week when we were going over those very early numbers, we were at a roughly 60-40 split in our survey, though it was slightly 59-41, but in that ballpark of 60-40. And as we're moving along, we see that our certificated, our teaching group is at about a 50-50. So clearly, this is necessitating this additional meeting. I guess I have a comment to question number 3, in which I'm surprised that it wasn't 100% that believe being in classes is 4 days a week is more beneficial to kids. I absolutely want my kid in 4 days, 5 days a week, 6 days, and give me a mom a break. But it's surprising that it isn't 100%. And so perhaps the wording was a little bit skewed or confusing in the perception that they were making the choice between 2-day and 4-day at that point. So just an interesting note more than anything. Question number 4, the number 1 response there is clearly about safety for everyone, students and staff. So I can appreciate that number 1 response there. Question number 5 was a little disconcerting in that the certificated body believed that, is there a chance we can get back to that?
Absolutely.
Question?
Yeah, Alan, do you mind doing us the favor again? You've been doing such a great job responding to us. Do you mind putting up the presentation one more time? And then we would toggle to, technically it would be slide 19, Alan. Really appreciate that. Up at the top, it'll say question 5. Thank you for working with us here.
Yes, my comment as you were going through, I just made some notes that there was a significant disconnect between management and certificated employees in their belief on that question, that the management was significantly overrepresented on the yes to that question. The benefit outweighing the cost, that management and administration overwhelmingly believe that the benefit outweighed the cost, whereas our teacher group essentially was exact opposite. They believe more so that there is no benefit or less benefit than the cost on that. So it's kind of surprising that we see this segregation between the administration and the teaching staff. And I think that was the end of my notes. So yeah, very, very interesting results, and clearly a mix of data that has brought us back in here. So I guess with that, I would turn it over to the rest of my board for any comments that you may have at this point. Those joining us virtually as well, please raise a hand so we can see you if you have any comments. For now, we'll go to anybody in person if you have any comments.
And I'll go first if you guys want to think about what you're going to say. Anyway, so I have a couple comments. Some of my concerns, and obviously the numbers have changed, but from my simple looking at it, it's 50-50. So whatever decision we're going to make tonight is going to be a difficult one, and we're basically going to upset half the people one way or the other, no matter which direction we go. So in saying that, I haven't taken any of these decisions lightly. I've listened to, read emails, I've personal emails sent to me. I've read the data. We had access to the survey this entire time. The board members have. So I've been watching it progress, and I've talked to community members. And by the way, it may be just in my area, and I'm from District 5, Oak Hills area. every parent that has approached me, not related to the school area, but they know I'm a school board member, they all have come to me personally and said, when are you going to get my kid back in school all week long? That's the only comments I hear on out in the public. So just so you know, in my personal survey of walking around and seeing people at the Tractor Supply store or wherever I see them, that's the comment I hear in the public. But a lot of those people won't understand, or maybe they don't have the information at hand that we have with the CDC notes and the recommendations and the guidelines, and that's why we're going through this process to try to make the best for everyone. We're trying to figure out a good balance. Otherwise, we would just say, okay, we're going to go full days, 5 days a week, and deal with it. Right? We're not doing that. We put out the survey. The primary mission for us is to educate those kids. And if we were to give the survey to those kids, I don't think many of those problems would have came up. I think most of those problems are adult problems, and they're adult issues, and the mission is for the kids. So these are just some things that I want to talk about, because this is a big decision, and I know it's stressful for a lot of people. And this is my mindset, just so you guys understand what I'm thinking, and hopefully I'm conveying it right. I don't know. So then the next thing on my mind is safety for the instructors, because that seems to be one of the number one questions on there. Is the room in the classroom, and are we going to be able to distance the children? So I would like to think that our site leaders, our principals, are going to figure out a cap for the space they have for in-person learning. So if we all of a sudden have an influx of distance learning students that want to come back to school now that we're going to go 4 days a week, then we have a cap so we're able to properly distance those students. Maybe we never reach the cap, but maybe we do. As long as we're able to adhere to that distancing number, I'd like to make sure that happens. And I have a couple of notes here. And then a lot of the comments made where some of the comments were the children turn their cameras off, there's tons of interruptions, which are all true. Some of the other comments were on the other side where so much change this year, it's difficult. The children may have to change another instructor. They may have to change. They're just tired of change, and that's going to be the most detrimental thing. I think the most detrimental thing is them not coming to school and the teacher not having the ability to control that environment and set the pace for the learning. So children are resilient. If they change teachers, just in my experience, I'm not a professional educator. I just know that children are resilient. I'll leave it at that. Those are my comments. And that's where my mindset is.
Thank you. Member Flores, have you any comments?
Yeah, one of the things that I was noticing about that San Bernardino, those numbers that we're looking from San Bernardino County, the highest daily new case rate is, what is it? It's 8.4 per 100,000.
Correct.
Which sounds high, but obviously we don't have 100,000 people that live in Phelan.
You're right.
So when we kind of look at that, the number comes out to about 1.2 people per day for the 14,700 people we have living here. And Phelan's the highest at 8.7. Then it just goes down from there. Oak Hill's second highest is 6 per 100,000. Victorville, 4.6 per 100,000. I'm sorry, Wrightwood at 5.5, then Victorville 4.6, then Pinion Hills at 3.6. So basically in Pinion Hills, the positivity rate is 0.2 people per day.
Yeah, based on the total population,
So it takes
right?
5 days to get a positive case in Pinion Hills right now. So I just say that because I know a couple of the comments seem to kind of say that we're not looking at that part of it. We are looking at that part. And that's, I think, why the county said we're allowed to keep moving forward. in trying to find out what's best and what's workable and what's feasible. And I do, I understand the concern about space in a classroom, and we should do our best. And I, that's what we trust you guys to figure out, is how to do that, is how to put the kids in a class. I don't know if you are using every room on the campus. I don't know if we could use, some of the bigger rooms. I don't know all of that. I'm not on every campus. And just like Member Bristol said, with the site leadership does, that's why there's site leadership. I know it's not easy, but to have to make those difficult decisions and the logistic, moves and stuff like that. But we are considering the safety, and that's what these numbers, even though 8.7 sounds big per 100,000, but it's not really as big. The number's pretty low. That's 0.008%. It's not even 1%. It's not even 0.5%. So it's a pretty low number, and that's the only reason we're moving forward, is because the number is that low. So I and just like Member Bristol says, it's going to be difficult no matter what we do. I don't think there's an easy way to go about that. So, but it's hard hearing from teachers and classified staff the exact opposite things almost on some of these comments. It's really difficult to do that. So I think we have to look at what's best, like Member Bristol said, for our kids. And for some of them, this might work. And I think President Hernandez, I'm so sorry, had said last time, I think that's why we're trying as hard as we are with the remote and with the Snowline Academy, and having that option and making sure it's working well. So.
Thank you. Clerk Cologne, I see your hand up.
Yeah, those were amazing comments from both of you. I especially like Nathan's. I agree 100% with everything you said. But a lot of it, let's get back to the public comments we had. And it seemed to me most of those were also concerned with protocols, safety protocols, staffing protocols. A classroom teacher saying that, I'm in the classroom, I know that this particular thing is going to have to be done before you can do this. So all those things basically are under the auspices of the admin team. So I guess my main question is going to be then, and I do support the two primary comments, but just for clarification to the admin team, are you guys able to maintain the CDC safety protocols? Are you able to do what you need to do with the staffing and negotiate with the unions in terms of class sizes? And are you able to make Snowline a safe environment for the 2+2 idea?
Member Colom, I think those are questions directed to me. We've got President Hernandez. So make sure. Yeah. So
Sure, please.
yeah. So I think the answer to all of them is yes, but there are a lot of details behind that. So let me, what I'll end up doing if you are so willing here is I'll call on the experts within our senior cabinet to give you some more details, right? Because just a yes has to be, you've got to have more than that, right? So I think where you started was with CDC, right? Is it kind of jotting those down, right? The CDC. So when the CDC made that change from 6 feet to 3 feet, that really allowed for what we're talking about, right? And that is getting more kids back to in-person learning. That was adopted put into the guidelines of California Department of Public Health on March 20th, and that led to all this work, right? That we've been engaged in to determine, can it be done? So member, I'm going to tie into Member Bristol here too, because he talked about a cap. Now, all of our classrooms are not the same size, to be quite frank, throughout the district. And that's because of the district being, I guess, unifying back in 1982, but we know Phelan Elementary School is much, much, much older than that. So the sizes are different. But the bottom line is, it gets back to what, again, Member Bristol said, at that 3 foot distance, student to student, right? It depends on how many kids are going to come back. we may have, and again, this is where Dennis Zimmerman can help me out. He's done the work on this, so we'll ask him to open up his mic and give some details. We've gotten responses back from, as you said, administrative team. What are the concerns? This is a concern for sure, that there will be some classes that we may have to do what you then talked about, and that would be having substitute teachers or whatever it may be. Now, in terms of how many, we're never going to know until we hear how many come back and how many show up on top of that. But Dennis, you might open up your microphone and give in the more details that might be helpful to not just Member Cologne, but all the board members, specific to the I guess what I try to convey is the bigger picture, but maybe some of the details that arise when the challenges come up.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Holman. Yes, there are a variety of concerns from level to level, from high school to middle school to elementary to non-traditional. The administrative team at the school sites believe there are mitigating factors we can do. It's just how quickly can we do them in terms of if we need more classroom space or need more furniture or need additional staff members to be with kids, which obviously then means that child resilience piece of having to change schedules or have some students finish the year with substitute teachers versus some of our permanent teachers. But our administrative staff believes it can be done. It's just how can it be done? How quickly can it be done? And it is unique from one site to another, depending on enrollment, depending on how many students choose to be remote and how many students choose to be in person, as well as just the things that happen in a normal school year in terms of the enrollment at those schools and the staffing ratios at those schools, because those change from first day of school to last day of school. So some sites have a little more wiggle room than others.
Yeah, thank you there, Dennis, for that answer. And then, Member Cologne, I want to make sure I covered everything in detail, because you had a few parts there, from CDC to substitute teachers to classroom size. What else maybe did I think we've heard that across the system. It's absolutely doable, but you've also heard that it's not easy. And I want to make that really clear here, right? It's not easy. Maybe it gives me that opportunity to get back to President Hernandez mentioned question 3. I thought it was really important that he brought up what he did. He said something to the effect that he was surprised that wasn't 100%. That was 100% because of again, writing questions is difficult. I'll say that for sure. Dennis Zimmerman and I have known that for many years now. But actually, it was purposely written that way because when we start to talk about the benefits and those outweighing the cost, and is it just best for kids in that non-COVID environment? I think everyone does say yes. It's not a COVID, it's not a COVID-free environment. So there are all the factors that you heard from all the staff members here that lead to, is it best? I think that's what's tied to that, right? And so I want to make it really clear. It's not because they don't feel like in person in its purest form is not best for kids. It's because of all the all the factors there. So I add that in right now. But can it be done? Absolutely. I think you heard Dennis Zimmerman say, and I would wholeheartedly agree, having worked with administration, listening to staff members, it's going to take some time. We have to go through all the processes you mentioned. You mentioned a lot, all that you mentioned is absolutely accurate. It's going to take time, but again, there's that notion of what's best, right? And all of you are weighing that right now. What's best? The amount of time that we'll get for kids in person versus not. And to answer again very shortly, yes, it can be done with our staff, because here's what I appreciate about them. I have to go on record saying this too. Whether folks said yes or no, the resounding theme I've heard is whatever that decision is, we will make it work to the best of the ability to ensure the best for the kids given that decision. And I've heard that, I appreciate what Member Bristol said when he heard from everybody. I've heard that time and again from staff members. They certainly weighed in, and it was said clearly that in some cases it was about 50-50. They weighed in that way. But all of them had said, whatever that decision, at least to me, who I've talked to, I certainly haven't talked to all 1,000, but our administrative team plus plenty of staff members saying, yes, whatever is decided, we're going to do what's best for kids. And so that's always encouraging to hear. And it's not a surprise given the Snowline family that we work with. So hopefully that was helpful, Member Cologne.
Thank you.
Well,
Yes, thank you, President Hernandez. I would like to say that I greatly appreciate hearing those words from
Superintendent Holman, that we have the support of the staff to get this done. I think that our primary focus is to educate the children. And if we can do this safely, we need to do this. We need to bring them back. So if we can satisfy that greatest concern, according to the slide, that of being safety, if we can satisfy that we are going to secure the campus and we are going to do following all of the guidelines, keeping it safe for staff and students, I believe that we need to proceed. The next concern was it about the change, about, the children getting different teachers? Was that the second top concern?
Yeah, that's correct. You know how it reads? If you don't mind me, I'll read it completely. It's a short time
Please.
for students, staff, and families to adapt to another change.
Okay. And I understand we've had nothing but change throughout this entire COVID period. But to restore some semblance of normalcy and get kids back to school, I think is what our focus needs to be. And I appreciate the support of our teachers and all the staff in making that happen. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, just going over some of those comments again. I know we got some of the results and we're seeing a more significant portions of some of the larger schools disagreeing with the idea of moving in. And my concern does come from the fact that the bigger schools would have more of a challenge moving forward and will expose many inequities already to those that are seeing perhaps significant learning loss, and the additional change could exacerbate that condition moving forward. So I am absolutely sensitive to that, which that's again, that number 2 on that list, that additional change is going to cause additional problems. The idea of then limiting the number of students who can go on campus, once again, will expose additional inequities to those that, are we now going to select those that do need the additional help? And if you don't qualify, what is that qualification now that you're going to be limited and be told, no, you cannot go back to school because we don't have the capacity for you? Where does that decision process happen? And to what extent, are we willing to accept, a student that needs the additional support may not get it because of limitations? I was really concerned and been following the county's data on cases, and pleased that we are making the progress that we're making. But as you pointed out, we have flatlined, and that doesn't mean we're getting better. That means as many people are getting sick this week as they did last week, as they did the week before, and that's 3 weeks old. Some of the data is showing that it's increasing. We went from yellow to orange. So I am highly cautious that these numbers are not going to improve, that we believe the world is normal right now, and we're going to start behaving in a manner that is unsafe once again. We see it across the U.S. Many states are exceeding these numbers and increasing that they have since maybe a couple months ago. Other countries fully in a fourth wave. So until we have more data, I don't believe that we are as rosy of a picture as we want to believe that this thing is beat. It is not. It is far from it. We have a lot of work to do, maintaining our distance. I don't even know if I necessarily agree with the 3-foot recommendation. It is the recommendation, and we've always said we will follow what the guidelines state. I think that may have been premature, but we will go with that. So let's see. And perhaps a final statement was that students are absolutely our goal and getting them the education that they need. But if we don't have the staff support to get us there, we're not going to have anything. With 50% of teachers, I don't believe we have enough support to move this cause forward. If we were at the 60+ percentage, a super majority, maybe 66% that said, yeah, we're ready, let's do this, I could more wholeheartedly say, let's go forward. With a 50-50 split, I would err on the side of caution and say that we need to slow down, that we need to reevaluate how we are going to move forward this year. And I said it last year when all this was starting, that we will never know if we have done too much, but we painfully know if we've done too little. So if we move forward too quickly and there are cases and cases rise, that will be on our hands. And I believe that is something that we need to take incredibly seriously. Cases are already coming in across the district. They're being handled. We have policies, procedures in place, but it's not that there are none. We are having cases. So at what point do we say more on campus is okay? So.
Yeah, you know, I want to respond to a few things that you said there, and even something that I said. And first of all, just say I think you started with the notion of equity, right? And just so I define equity for myself, that's getting what each child needs, right? It doesn't mean equality, right? It means with each child what each child needs. And so, you know, based upon any situation, and if a change were to be directed by all of you, I think we have to keep in mind that core value, right? Equity for all. And so that might be different at each school site to the extent that as we open across if we were to open across the district in this regard, there might be differences that we're going to have to deal with to ensure, like you said, equity, right? The core value of equity. And you know, you adopted that just at the last meeting. And so we certainly would report on that and make sure we keep you updated in that regard if that were to be the case. When you talked also about the data, I appreciate you bringing that up. And that's the baseline. Right now, the baseline and Snowline, right, that where we're leveling off, I think you nailed it. I think you said 3 weeks. I've seen 5 weeks actually of that leveling off, right? And we saw it up on the data. And so the baseline right now is in the orange tier. I think that's good. But I just want to put in the plug that I know everyone is tired of my parent letters and staff updates. But I think it's the time to reinforce. We cannot, no matter what we do, whether if we stay at 2 or go to 4, we cannot let up on the mitigations, on the mitigation strategies. I get it that we're exhausted. I don't blame anyone for feeling that way. Look at my hair. My hair is exhausted. I'm telling you right now. So I get the fact that this is incredibly challenging, but boy, now is the time, even with all the vaccinations out, that we have to continue to engage in the preventive measures so that we can not only keep it at this level, but decrease it. And that increases the safety across the system. So that's my little plug in there. And then Member Hernandez, I think where you ended on that 50-50. And remember I had said, you know, I'd alluded to the fact that staff members, I know I can speak for Snowline staff members, whatever's put before them, they're going to put 100% into it. But I also want to be really clear. This is not going to be easy no matter what we do, whether it be like, remember Bristol started off with the 50-50. It is going to be hard, right? No matter where we land. And what I can say is, and what I really want to emphasize, that if we make the change, if that's the direction, we're going to make it and do it the best of our possibility for these students. I know that will occur because that is what Snowline does. But I also know it's not going to be easy. And so incumbent upon me in my role, the senior cabinet, and all the administrators, I know we can speak for them because we've had in-depth conversations where they've said, we will do our best with whatever we're directed, but we've got to support the heck out of the staff if we make the change or if we don't, because it's the staff who are directly connected to the students to ensure the good outcomes that we want for every single child, the best of outcomes, of course. So I just want to reinforce that piece that you said. I think is really important. I want to make sure I was really clear. I don't want to give any indication this is going to be easy. It's going to be hard no matter what we do. If we stay or if we, certainly if we make a change, because change is hard. That requires, as was mentioned, negotiating the effects, making sure that every single staff member understands what we're doing and that we provide the support for them. So I thank you for bringing up all those points and allowing me to speak to those. Hopefully that's helpful details there.
Thank you. From the board, any other questions or comments?
I'm sure there's a million.
To the board members joining us virtually, any comments? Okay. Well, at this point, what are you looking for from the board?
Yeah, thanks, President Hernandez. You can see how it was presented here. It's for information approval. So either one of two ways. We've always operated, excuse my voice here. We've always operated in terms of these decisions, right? Getting consensus from all of you, the direction that you want to provide to us. I did put it here for approval, just in the event that you as president and the rest of the board members feel like you wanted to vote on it. You can do either way. Again, our history has been that you provide us with the direction, and then when we have that direction based on consensus from the 5 board members, then we would move forward. But certainly would love the consensus one way or another, and that is on one. It was really the last slide there, to be quite frank. Do we stay at 2 days for the remaining 35 days, knowing that we can't open up tomorrow by any stretch, right? There's a lot of work that has to be done with our bargaining groups, all staff members, and the families. We can't forget them, of course, and most importantly, our students. So a lot of work has to be done. If you're wondering about how much time that's going to take, honestly, at least 2 weeks from today, for all the tasks that need to be done. I know at the last meeting, I mentioned Member Bristol and his role as a captain, the systems, right? All the systems that have to be addressed to ensure that we can get everything done in service of the kids. And that would be at least 2 weeks from today. It would be more than that even, probably. But that's what those board meetings are for, and for us to update you if that's the direction. So a lot of information there. In short, to go right back to it, it would be either direction or you can call for a vote. Either way.
Okay. Well, I believe it's probably prudent to continue down this path of direction rather than, I guess, setting a vote to reopen on a particular day. If I were to provide any kind of guidance, it would be continue down this path of evaluating data, evaluating sites, and student participation, family participation in these in a 4-day a week idea, but certainly that we are going to keep a very tight pulse or monitor that pulse very closely of where we are with all the moving components, because there are, as I said before, 8,000 plus moving parts to this machine right now. So that would be my recommendation moving forward. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd actually like to move forward with going to the 4-day in-person model that we have spoken of. We reviewed the data, and I would say to do it and in the fastest timeline available, which is 2 weeks. I don't want to set you guys to a hard date, but I do want to state that I'd like it done as quickly and as safely as possible. We've already discussed the distancing, the class sizes, some of the safety parameters and issues. You guys have safety protocols that you can follow and guide you and adhere. We're going to adhere to those safety protocols to keep our staff safe. I think like most cases, the biggest danger to this COVID thing would be to the staff, because the children are shown to be pretty resilient to the COVID. Not to say that it won't make them sick or get them messed up, but back on track. As soon as possible, go to the 4 days in-person model, and that's my opinion. We can data this thing out. We only have I don't know, what do we have, less than 8 weeks? What, how many?
35 school days.
35 school
Yeah.
days. We're going to have a minimum of 10 school days to figuring it out. If you're saying 2 weeks, that's 10 school days. So then we have 25 left, which I know some of the comments were, why are we doing this so late? Why would we make a change with such few days left? But if we can just salvage any extra day for these kids, I think it's worth it. And it'll also help close the gap for next year. So that's a big part of it. When do we decide? So if next year we're in the orange tier in the county, and then we go to start up school, and then we have to, of course, we'll have to decide then what we're going to do. But we can't just continue in the state that we're in. We need to work our way to more in-person school. That's my personal opinion. And that's what I'm going to push for is you guys and direct you. I would like to direct you guys to go full steam ahead with all those safety precautions involved.
I will second that.
Yeah, I'm right there with him.
Daniel, and then
Member or Clerk Colon, do you have any additional comments?
Just one thing I would add to what Mr. Flores and the rest of you have is that if there's some wiggle room needed somewhere, you should be able to have it. Like if there's one school with one wing or some special circumstance of class size, whatever thing, that it doesn't have to be, so stringent that you can't do some modifications somewhere of the 3 weeks or the 2 weeks, whatever the time thing was. That's all.
thank you, Clerk Coloma. May I speak to that, President Hernandez? Is that
Please.
okay, yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up. So let me speak to the timeline that's been mentioned here a number of times. So 2 weeks is just I mentioned that is really probably not even realistic on the 2 weeks, but let me just talk about a 2 week plus timeline and all the moving parts. We've got to notify staff members tonight, and into tomorrow morning, right? Now with that notification, we certainly have to address the effects, right? We've got to work with our staff members and address the effects of any and all changes. It's what we owe them. It's what we're required to do. And it's what we should do, right? Because it's our staff members who know best. And so we'll get right to working with the effects and making certain that we address all of these changes appropriately and sufficiently. And so that's going to, of course, take some time. We have to bring in the parents here too. And this is, again, I'm not going to be able to touch on everything, but these are the important pieces. Who's coming back, right? Who would come back in a 4-day model? Our school sites did an outstanding job. I can't speak to how well they did when we went from all at home to two days a week. They were just outstanding to a school site, connecting with the families. And I wish I could say all the families get back to them on day one. And I know just because I get it. I've got a child too in school still. We get busy. Here's a plea: is if we do head this way, is just if our families can respond back to us, that really assists with the planning, right? And gets at what I think we heard Clerk Colomb say. And I appreciate his comment about having a level of flexibility based upon, if I heard you correctly, Clerk Colomb, those challenges that are going to come up. Because I think we've predicted some. There will be some that come up that maybe we didn't quite expect. I think we've predicted just about all of them, and we know that we'll have to address some. Many of them, again, predicated on the family saying, my child is going to come back to a 4-day model if that's where all of you direct us to go. So just give you a little bit of information around that 2 week plus timeline. We're going to, I'll tell you, I won't speak for myself, but I know I can speak for all the other staff members. They've met every single moment that we put before them, and I know they'll do it again. I just want to be really realistic with all of the board members here. That's why, and I know I'm preaching to the choir maybe in some regards, but I just want to make certain I put it out there. It does take time because of all the reasons I just mentioned, not to negate other ones. But again, I'll just finish this statement with the idea of how impressed I was with the entire Snowline learning community, not just the staff members, but learning community when we went from remote to 2-day. Here's another opportunity if we go this direction to meet one more moment in service of the kids is what I feel like I've heard just about from everybody, but I want to make sure I get clarity on that too.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like most of the board is ready to direct you and the executive staff to commit to that as soon as possible model. I caution against it. I don't believe the few weeks afterwards, after this is implemented, I think we're in a status quo that we can hobble across the finish line and, pull as many of these kids with us, and any changes, we're going to drop a few of them behind. My personal opinion on how the change would occur, it looks like if 2 weeks is not the target, then 2.5 puts us at mid-May. That leaves us half of May and 1 week of June, and I don't see the benefit of making that change with such little time left. But as consensus from the board, it does sound like we are wanting that direction. If I can perhaps get a show of hands that you do want to direct the superintendent to implement a 4-day per week school schedule for half days, as we've been discussing, I would like a show of hands.
All right. Can I just do one more comment before that? Okay. So just speaking of Member Colom's wiggle room, I agree with that. And I know like currently Wednesdays are their remote days, because it'll take time for the staff to be able to rearrange and do all of that. And I'll leave it to you guys to figure out how you're going to schedule that out and do it. But it seems like that would be a good day to maybe give them like a staff day or something to make that happen faster. I don't know.
Now, Member Bristol, I totally appreciate that. And in fact, we'll give even more than 1 day. In fact, we're entitled, and rightly so. I'm very proud to back this up, right? Entitled to give them the days and the time that they need. And so again, our history, in my opinion, is that the administrators were outstanding in that last time in providing unique ways to get at what you're talking about. Right. In chunks and blocks of time, so that they have what you just mentioned, the time to be able to make that shift. It's a really important point that you bring up. I thank you for saying that, and that's built into that 2 week at minimum timeline for sure. So thank you for reminding us and reminding everyone out here to engage in that same process again. Thank you for that. We'll definitely adhere to that.
So once again, looking for the consensus by show of hands, directing the superintendent to implement the 4-day or half-day school week school week as soon as possible. By show of hands. 1, 2, 3, and I do not have visual on Member Cologne. Perhaps you can give me an I if you agree, Steve. Nice. Okay. So you most certainly have consensus for that.
Yeah, so I do appreciate you giving us that direction here. And so just to give you some details, then time is going to be the essence, right? And so we'll get going on this tonight, beginning tomorrow. We have another board meeting on Tuesday of next week, which is April 27th. And so certainly expect an update at that board meeting in terms of all that we're doing and projected timelines and all of that. I do thank you for engaging in a hard conversation, because I think I've been on record saying I can see both sides. It maybe speaks to the 50-50, right? I can see both sides of this, and I certainly honor everyone who gave us feedback, and I'll honor everybody, even just who didn't and who's throughout this district. These are absolutely unprecedented times, and I've never been more proud of being part of being associated with the Snowline Joint Unified Learning Community, and it's been for many reasons. One of which are these situations, is when changes have come up, I really feel like across the system, as hard as it's been, and I don't even know the half of it, but I feel like I've got feedback from everyone to the extent that we've met the moment, and we've met the moment for students. And that's what we're going to do now based upon this next change. We're going to meet the moment no matter how hard this is for these students in service of again, what we're committed to, our first core value, that our people matter. And it's students, it's staff members, it's our families and community members, and we'll make sure that we keep that focus at the senior cabinet level all the way to all staff members as we go through this. So thank you.
All right, very good. That concludes the administrative item on our agenda and takes us to board member comments. I believe we've commented ourselves out, but given the moment, Member Flores.
No more this time.
Member Bristol.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot. I'm good.
Member Behringer.
No comments. Thank you.
Clerk Kalun.
No comments.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank all the folks that I had received information from. Really appreciate that outpouring of concern and to support the direction that we do go as a board and as a district. You know, I want to know that, I want you all to know that you all have the support you need in moving forward, and we'll get you everything that is necessary to make that happen. Please keep comments coming, whether during meetings or privately off meeting nights. That's what we're here for, to receive your comments and to represent those that we speak to. So thank you very much to everybody who has provided their information. Really appreciate that. And we'll go to administrative comments and start with, well, who do we, we start with, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Appreciate, first of all, thank you all for engaging in this difficult conversation. Just like Ryan alluded to, these fork in the road times are really tough. You know, when things are going smooth and the waters are calm, I wouldn't say our work is easy, but it's a lot simpler for sure. So thank you. This direction is nothing but good for students for sure. Regardless of how people express their voice in the survey, I'm convinced that at the end, when we cross the finish line of this school year, everybody's going to be proud that we did what we did, no matter how difficult it is. And I believe that a vast majority of people will come to the conclusion that it was the right thing to do, and they'll have a lot to be proud of as a result of that. We want to get to a point in this year where there are no winners and losers according to how the survey shakes out, but everybody's a winner because they had a voice in this process, and that we are doing what we truly believe is best for kids, and it'll show at the end of the year. I'm really convinced of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman.
No comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chacon.
Nothing at this time. Thank you. Appreciate it, and appreciate all your help getting this going on such short notice. A big thanks to Rick Hernandez in the background pulling this off today. So thank you for your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chacon. Ms. Stapp.
No comments.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Holman.
Yeah, I certainly have talked a lot. I'm going to just be really brief though here too. And remember back in 2020 of March, right? The 13th, it was Friday, right? Just shortly thereafter, I talked about being essentially human. And here's another time where we're going to have to remind ourselves to be essentially human through this process. I would wholeheartedly agree that this is going to be great for kids. It's certainly challenging on so many fronts, as I see from transportation, nutrition services, and on the sites across the system. I just thank our staff members immensely for getting us to this point. And I'll thank them in advance for the work that we're going to do to end this year in service of these students. So I don't by any means think it's going to be easy, but it's going to be the right work on behalf of the students. And so thank you for tonight. And you board members, thank you for coming together again on very short notice in service of not just the survey, but this entire learning community. It's greatly appreciated. and it means a lot. And I think it sends a tremendous message relative to that first core value. Our people matter, and all of you are here because our people matter. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And as always, to those that are joining us virtually, I do appreciate you coming out and spending this time with us, being part of the process. I can't do it without you. We have to be all together moving forward. There being no further business come before the Board of Trustees, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Clerk Bloom. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Flores. A roll call vote. Member Flores?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Behringer?
Aye.
Clerk Bloom?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The meeting is adjourned.